It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. I'm here in Indianapolis for the National Catholic Youth Conference. 20-some thousand kids filing in from all over the country, all over the world, maybe some out of the country. And I'm here in our hotel lobby with Doug and Dave from the Doug and Dave Show, DougandDaveShow.com. Thanks for being here, guys.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Thank you for having us.
Eric?
Oh, I'm already Kyle making a mistake, Eric. Kyle.
I thought maybe that was part of the bit, part of the joke.
It is. We like to call Kyle Eric.
Everybody's Eric. That's it.
Everybody's Eric, and in the church world, all the women are Barb.
Barb or Deb?
Deb.
There's a lot of truth to that. Doug Brummel and Dave Wilson are the Doug and Dave Show. And Doug, I've known you for quite a while.
Quite a few years.
And things... I'm trying to think of how I would describe your show. It's a
Good luck with that.
A diverse cast of a one-man show. Maybe that's a good way to start with.
Yeah.
It's a one-man show with many characters.
Yeah, I like to say it's like a Catholic Saturday Night Live. If Saturday Night Live was Catholic, and you had these crazy characters, but they actually had a catechetical element to it. So
right.
So yeah. It's kind of.
I think that's
hard to
interesting.
describe, though. I think you're catechetical comedy. We call it.
Like we don't get that much.
No, it seems like an oxymoron.
It's one or the other. You might start with comedy
Right.
to lead. A ton of speakers do this, right? They tell some jokes and laugh and everything like that, and then they get into the ministry of it.
Right, like the priest who tells the joke and then tells the homily that has nothing to do with each other, and everybody goes home, remembers the joke, doesn't remember the homily. And I try to get priests to say, "Hey, why don't you weave the humor through it and use it as a teaching tool?" So
easier said than done. I mean,
is.
it's a gift that you have that it's a hard thing to do. Can you give us an example of something that you've done that's a way that you teach through humor?
Well, for years I have many different characters that I do, but probably one of the most famous characters is an older lady named Estelle, who's not even Catholic, who wanders on to whatever gathering we're having. And she can't hear very well, but all of a sudden she's asking questions about the church, and she's feeling God calling her to explore Catholicism, mainly because she likes the color purple. And all of a sudden she asks the audience members and the priests and the staff members questions about Catholicism. And through that, she's learning, and the audience is learning along with her. So the characters are regular, they're normal people, they're all a little quirky, and they've been a hit through many years. So we've been very blessed to explore that gift, whatever God gave me.
Yeah.
I'm just here to use it.
And so what transitioned from you being a solo act to partnering with Dave?
Well, God is full of surprises. Isn't that right, Dave?
I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that question.
Dave was just minding his own business. Actually, about 3 years ago, I met a little mosquito somewhere in my yard and gave me a little take-home gift called West Nile virus, so a little disease that many people know about, some people don't, but West Nile virus can affect the brain. And for many people, they don't notice any symptoms. Some people, they die. Some people have swelling around the brain, which I did, and just mild swelling. And it took about 2 years, but during those 2 years, I was kind of off the grid nationally for a while and couldn't be around people too much, very overstimulation. But luckily, my creative side healed even better. And about 2 years later, I was kind of fully healed, I guess. But in the midst of that disease, I really thought God was done with me, and I turned into an introvert, couldn't be around people, didn't smile, didn't laugh. So I kind of thought it was the end. And then as the healing started happening, Dave and I were in a music group at our parish. And all of a sudden one day, Dave said to me,
What did I say, Doug?
I don't know.
Oh, I know what
morning.
I said. I said, yeah. So I've been playing in the country music world for years.
Have you seen my
years.
patch cable?
Yeah,
Exactly. I noticed his cables were a mess, and I thought I could.
This guy needs help.
I thought I could straighten out the snake pit there of chords. No, I'd been playing country music for a long time. Touring the honky tonks and dance halls from Denver to Texas and back. Doug wrote me into playing fiddle
several years ago.
Several years ago.
6 years ago, probably.
We did that for a couple years, and then at some point I said, Doug, I think we could write better songs than some of these.
And I said, what? And this is when I was healing from West Nile. So all of a sudden, here we had played together,
Like the songs that you were playing at church.
We were playing at
He said,
church.
I think
And
we
then
could-
one day he said, maybe we
should try writing some songs.
Songs is some psalms.
Uh-huh.
They're not really songs because they have a P in there. Psalms.
Psalms.
So we started doing that. And then Dave said, what are we going to do with these songs? And I said, well, we could write a show.
Yeah.
And then we wrote a show called
Mass Confusion. And here we are.
And Here We Are.
Mass Confusion.
So God is full of surprises, and all of a sudden, it was like a crash course between the cowboy world of Dave and my ultra-Catholic catechesis world.
How would you describe Mass Confusion? We've heard about your characters.
So the characters do play a role in Mass Confusion, but it's a fresh, new approach to how we can talk about the Mass in a fun way. Dave, how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a catechetical comedy. No, and
Did you hear that Catholic word he just used? Catechetical. That was good.
I've never used that word before. Honestly,
I've never heard him say that word because he's like the regular Catholic who would never say catechetical.
Yeah.
For those in our listening audience, catechetical means like echoing the faith. It's like learning about the faith, but it's fun.
Is it specific to the Mass to explain the Mass?
Yeah, so we do. So the arc of the show, we walk you through the parts of the Mass, and now you might not realize that we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And as it happens, it's the Doug and Dave show. Doug conveniently ends up going missing.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Dave has to sit out there and continue the show, and characters come in and out. Doug shows up here and there.
And the congregation is like the live studio.
And Doug always
audience.
misses the characters, probably.
He,
I just missed him.
right? Yeah.
Doug
You've
doesn't-
seen the show.
Doug doesn't do much work, basically, but it is called the Doug and Dave Show, and so the congregation plays the role of the live remote studio audience. So they have a fun time, but it's kind of they go for a ride. They don't know what's real, what's not real. A lot of music, a lot of teaching, but it's a fun way to learn about the Mass. It's been very, very well received, I'd say.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we can get a little sample of it here coming up and talk more with Doug and Dave. Check out DougAndDaveShow.com. We've got more coming up here on the Kyle Hyman Show live from Indianapolis for the NCYC.
Welcome back to the Doug and Dave Show. My name's Dave, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Doug Brummel.
Good morning, everybody. It's Doug.
We are live from the hotel lobby here at NCYC 2019.
Beautiful Marriott downtown
So
Indianapolis.
good to be here. So good to be here. Doug, the Doug and Dave Show, a lot of people come up to us and ask, Doug, Dave, how did you come up with such a great name for a radio show? Do you want to maybe share a little story about how
I
that
do
came
think
to
the
be?
Doug and Dave Show is a great title for name for the show. And really, Dave, some people ask why is Doug's name first? And, what Phil always tells me is...
Wait. Phil? You mean Mr. Gillespie?
You call him Mr. Gillespie?
Yeah, you call him Phil?
Well, he is my second cousin's brother.
The station owner,
Yeah.
Mr. Gillespie.
Right.
You're related?
Okay, you didn't know that?
No.
I thought for sure you heard that at the Christmas party.
There's a Christmas party?
You were at the Christmas party, the station
No.
Christmas party?
No, I had no idea. You told me to cover the shift. I did the Dave Show, the
Oh.
best of Dave.
Well, and by the way, thank you for covering quite a bit. I've been taking a lot of workshops. Phil's been wanting me to, increase my knowledge of Mass Confusion and knowing about the Mass. So those Dominican sisters down the road, they've been offering those great workshops. And so I've been taking those. They give me a certificate, Dave. So by the way, next week I'm doing one on the Old Testament. Can you cover that show for me?
Well, maybe I could come with you to the Old Testament workshop. I've never been to a workshop.
There might be a prerequisite, and I'm not sure what that is, but I will ask Mr. Gillespie, and see what he says if there's enough budget to cover you. Because how are you learning to prepare for Mass Confusion? You're not taking the certificate courses?
I just read my Bible every morning. Isn't that not what you do?
No, I take courses because then you get a certificate when you just read the Bible.
Yeah, well, I've got a strategy to it.
Oh, you're doing like a course, a
No,
Bible
no.
study course.
No, it's just kind of my own thing. I call it flip or flop.
Oh, like the HGTV show you always watch?
Yeah, after my favorite TV show. See, so sometimes I get up in the mornings.
So you're applying HGTV to how you do a Bible study.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an approved way, or are you just doing that naturally?
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
yeah. So I wake up in the mornings, and if it's a weekday, what I'll do is I'll open my Bible and I'll flip it to a page, and I'll just start there.
You just start reading the
Yeah,
Bible.
like for example, here I just start with Galatians.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on the weekends, I usually have a little more time. I'll flop it.
Gotcha. So you're
just start
kind of hearing. Okay. So anyway, can you cover for me? Because I got to take that workshop. And trust me, I'll ask Mr. Gillespie, if there's budget.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
But otherwise,
yeah.
if you can just cover, that
Sure.
might be easiest.
Sure.
But yeah, the Doug and Dave Show, it's called the Doug and Dave Show. And basically, I think Phil said it's just like alphabetical order, Doug, and then Dave, alphabetical. No, I
don't think that's right.
Well, it was something like that. Or no, I think one name had less letters than the other name, Doug, and then Doug has 4 letters, and Dave has, or maybe it was like youngest to oldest, or tallest. I don't know. He had a reason somewhere, but if you look at the Doug and Dave logo at DougandDaveShow.com, you can. It is kind of subtle, but Dave, I do think your name's a little bit bigger. Just a.
It's a little bit bigger, but on a black background, I mean, my name's faded out.
It's
I don't
a
know
little
if-
gray, but it's the Doug and Dave Show, and we're just serving the Lord as best we can. aren't
We're
we,
happy
Dave?
to be here.
We're happy to be here, and anyway, we're glad to be on the show today.
Yay! All right, we are here in Indianapolis. This is Kyle Hyman.
Don't switch the station, folks.
Joined by Doug Brummel and Dave Wilson, who have put together I guess the cat might be out of the bag a little bit. It's kind of a fake radio show that you do, which, being in radio, I have a particular appreciation for. And so, talked a little bit about your background, and if you just joined us, Doug does different characters, which we didn't even get into. You were just playing yourself, maybe
Which is rare
a
unto
wiser
itself.
version of yourself, or
A wisecracker myself.
And so, what are some of the things that you talk about in the show? You mentioned kind of explaining the Mass. How does that actually work? I kind of like this idea of different ways of learning about the faith, of just like kind of no particular method. What was the religious order that you take your workshops from?
The Benedictine sisters. They're an order of sisters who pray for people who have trouble making decisions. So a lot of the sisters couldn't decide which order to join, the Benedictines or the Dominicans, so they started a new order called the Benedidominicans.
I wouldn't actually be surprised if that happens.
Yeah.
Today,
Well, in real
right?
life, my own sister is a Dominican sister, so I have to give the Dominicans a little plug.
Yeah.
Because I always think Benedictines get more press, especially in Indiana for some reason. I
Yeah?
don't know. Thank you, St. Meinrad.
Right. Oh, speaking of, you are actually working on a master's from St. Meinrad?
I am working on a master's in theology from St. Meinrad, which has been wonderful.
Yeah.
And always been I was Benedictine raised in Illinois, high school, and my first master's degree is in counseling psych. So that's been very helpful. And then the challenge is how do you take those deep theological concepts and find comedy in it and teachable moments in a way that the average person can understand and gravitate to and kind of use as a tool. So if somebody asks them, what does this mean in the Mass, or what does that mean in the Mass, that they actually know. So a lot of the show shares a lot about the history of the Mass, the mystery, the beauty, the joy, and to teach through comical methods. That way people really remember it.
Luckily, the Doug and Dave Show does feature an average person that just asks a bunch of questions, and I'm not really acting. I think it's...
When Dave says he doesn't know the answer,
Yeah, I really
you
don't know the answer. No.
but maybe if you took a workshop, but we'll have to see if there's budget for that.
That's the part I play in my everyday life as well. That's the character.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the ways that you break down the Mass? What are some of the takeaways that you hope that after seeing Mass Confusion, somebody would be like, "Oh, I never realized this before."
I think sometimes we pull out the little bitty things in Mass that theologians will think, well, everybody knows that.
Okay.
So we get radio callers who call in, and one of our favorite questions is, which isn't a real question people have, is,
Why does the priest kiss the altar?
Okay.
and, or actually the question is,
Why does the priest sniff the altar?
sniff the altar,
Right.
smell the altar, which is what a lot of Catholics do. They're like, why is he going up there at the beginning, getting a Mass, the end of Mass, and taking a big whiff of that altar, huh, Dave?
That's
And then-
right.
And so we kind of catechize in a fun way that he's actually kissing the altar out of reverence and respect. But it's just fun because you see the audience going, yeah, why does he sniff the altar? Like, or why does he swat flies right before the gospel? the three little crosses. So
Yeah.
you take what the average person or somebody who's not Catholic would see,
Sure.
and you start there, and then you catechize just a touch, not a doctorate in theology. This is just a touch.
And I think part of it is like, it's okay to have questions, Like, I have been Catholic my whole life. I've been going to Mass my whole life. And I still do have a lot of questions. And I think part of that is just that saying, like, hey, it's okay to not know everything and to learn some stuff, even if you have been a Catholic your entire life. You know what I mean?
And the characters that I do are always far less than perfect. So they have lots of questions. And Doug and Dave have questions. So it's definitely an entertaining and engaging format because we always try to appeal to all ages. I've always been all about the family and bringing younger folks and senior citizens together. And it's really been great to see senior citizens laugh together. And we do a lot of music, too. We all original music. And we wrote our own Mass parts, Mass of the Pines. And
so that's kind of the transition between segments in Mass Confusion.
Because our budget is very low budget. We cannot afford to pay copyrights for other people's music, right, Dave?
Can I ask you first, are you offended that we have a fake radio show as a person with a real radio show?
I feel like my radio show is a fake radio show sometimes that people don't realize. I don't know what I'm doing.
Wait, are we sure that this is a real radio station? 'Cause
just like, meet us in the lobby. I've got some microphones.
I rented some equipment, and I have a nice iPad with time on it, and maybe this is all fictitious. Is this real, Eric?
We're still,
is Eric your real name, or is
we're actually
Kyle
still
your
working
name?
on being able to broadcast this, but this is a practice. This is my
Okay.
boss made me set this up to practice. So I like this idea though of kind of breaking some of these things down, because I think especially bringing somebody to church for the first time, there's a lot of those things. If we do know those, he's kissing it out of reverence, or he's doing this, may this gospel be on my mind, on my lips, and in my heart. If we know that, well, if we're bringing a friend to Mass, they have no idea what's going on,
Right.
and we either are aware of that, and we know, like, if we bring our friend, they're going to be really confused. They're going to be Mass.
Be a great
confused.
name for a show. If only there was a show called Mass. What would we call it?
You haven't copyrighted that, have you?
No, it's all you.
Maybe.
But to kind of break down some of those things for a newbie, like an introductory crash course in the Mass.
Oh yeah. Well,
And like you said, like, there's so many of those things that we see every week, and do we actually know why those things are happening?
right.
Non-Catholics as well. I mean, we'll get done, at a parish, go back, we're talking to people, and I've had people come up and say, you know what, I'm not Catholic, but thank you.
Yeah.
And what's really cool,
Even if they're not going to convert to Catholicism,
Right.
at least they understand what their buddy's talking about or what's going on in
because
there.
parish is what a lot of people have said is it's so nice to be able to invite my non-Catholic friends to something we're having here at the parish that is fun and faith-filled at the same time. So to me, that's evangelization, when they can go out, invite someone into something that, again, we're not there to convert them,
Right.
but to help them understand a little bit and to have an enjoyable time and make a positive memory in a church setting is pretty remarkable for a lot of folks. And we're just kind of letting the Lord use us in whatever way He wants. Right, Dave?
I don't know if I'm convinced yet that what I'm being used for.
Yeah.
So whenever you say you have the Mass parts in a show, how does that work?
The Mass parts that we've written, for example, Doug and Dave personas would maybe get a little jealous of each other, and there's this little subtle issue about the name Doug and Dave show, and sometimes Doug is a little selfish, and there might be a 2-for-1 taco special, and I might get 2 tacos for myself but not get Dave one, and somehow we kind
was
of
it,
realize
3 for 1?
3 for 1, and then we kind of apologize to each other, and then we talk about how we work in a very small room at our studio and we can't let things build up, and we say I'm sorry to each other, and then we tie that into the penitential rite and tie that back to Mass and about families and how awesome it is that we had a chance at the beginning of Mass to say, Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, Lord have mercy. Or Dave, sometimes they say other words, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison. You know what language that is?
No, it's all Greek to me, Doug.
Wow, he's wide awake. That is Greek, actually. And then it ties into the penitential rite. But then we don't stay down there too long. We go right back up to the Gloria and remind ourselves what the angels sang when Jesus was incarnate, made flesh on Christmas morning. And so we kind of weave weave real life,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it ties into whatever the Mass parts, and people don't even know how they got there. But all of a sudden it's like, oh, we do say I'm sorry during Mass.
Right. Right.
So
how does this work? Is this because you kind of do this as parish mission?
this is a one-night event
One
for
night.
parishes or schools, and so usually it's held in the evening, but sometimes we do a school show also during the day, and it's about 90 minutes, and it's just a fast-paced, quirky way. You don't want to give too much away because a lot of it is the unexpected. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
I think we've already given too much away.
I think we did.
But there's also audience involvement, which I think is important. A lot of times we have these presentations that are just like one direction, and even just the act of getting a person up with you to interact in some way just breaks down that barrier and makes it more of a, even if it's not a legitimate conversation with the audience, it has that feel and kind of a welcoming atmosphere as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Breaks down a barrier.
My favorite parts are when you're able to pull somebody up, get them involved. The challenge is, making sure you pull the right person up. You want a person that's not too eager, but not deathly afraid of coming up there.
Right.
So it's fun to get the right person up there and have that involvement from the community too. And then, like you said, they can see their own up there and like, oh, it's not me, but it could be me. I understand. This is great.
And some parts are a little competitive. We have section by section contests, so the whole audience is engaged. They will not be falling asleep, I'll tell you that.
All right, check it out, DougAndDaveShow.com. You can book them for your parish, have them come out, and then I can get to see them. So I'll be excited about that. Our thanks to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting this show. We'll be back on Monday with another episode. Until then, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.